You're listening to the Good Food CFO podcast, where we challenge the status quo of the food industry, celebrate good food founders who are building businesses on their own terms, introduce industry disruptors, and are redefining equitability. If you're ready to build your financial confidence and join the good food revolution to change the way the food industry does business, you are in the right place. I'm the Good Food CFO and your host, Sarah Delavan. I want to talk about how, as a good food founder, you can create clearly defined roles and functions within your business by creating an accountability chart, not an org chart, and why this is so important. If you're wondering, Sarah, what does this have to do with building financial confidence and growing a financially successful good food business? The answer is so much, especially if you strive to achieve these things and build a business on your own terms. If you have a team or are thinking about building out your team, if you feel like your business lacks organization in terms of your company structure, team member responsibilities, and even communications, keep listening, because this episode is full of some really helpful ideas and steps for structuring your organization and achieving your big business goals. Building a financially successful business on your own terms means that the vision and goals you have for your business are your own. They're based on what you want to build, how you want to live your life day to day, both within and outside of your business. And you likely want to do what you love with people you love, or at least really enjoy being around. I know most of the food founders in this industry that I know want to make a big difference in the world and in the industry. And you want to be compensated for your creation and your work. Creating an accountability chart for your organization and getting clear on the functions of your business, the roles that make up those functions, and who is the accountable person for each helps you achieve all of these things. And we're going to walk through that process of creating an accountability chart together today. But before we do that, a quick story. When I was first thinking about expanding my team, because I felt I had too much on my plate, I took a meeting with a hiring consultant to discuss the position that I wanted to create a job post for. I believed that I needed someone who could execute social media and weekly newsletters for my consulting business because I just didn't have the time to do it. And after talking a bit, she said to me, "It seems like what you really need is a financial assistant because your schedule is full with client work. And as a result, you don't have the ability to spend time on marketing. But if you hire a marketing person and they're good at their job, you're going to have more clients." It became very clear very fast that I was focusing on what I wasn't good at and what I didn't have time to do, which is something you want to take into consideration as you build your team. But I was making a mistake in my thought process because I wasn't looking at the big picture and taking the long-term view of the business into consideration. I sort of was thinking about my goals, but not thoroughly. Enter the accountability chart. The idea of the accountability chart comes directly from the book Traction by Gino Wickman, and I'll be sharing some of his specific guidance in this episode. I recommend Traction for anyone who has a team or is thinking about building out their team, anyone who feels like perhaps they lack organization in terms of their current company structure, their team responsibilities, and even communications within your business and externally. I also recommend this book for anyone who is struggling to, quote, get the most out of their team. There is so much more in this book than the accountability chart, but this is something that I talk about over and over and over again with clients and coaching members. It is not a super exciting book. I'm going to be really honest with you. But many of its concepts and strategies have made their way into my businesses, and I value the lessons and the strategies that it has provided. I will say that I think the way that they view KPIs, they call it a scorecard, is something that we tried, but ultimately did not withstand the test of time for our organization. And I don't find it to work as a standalone tracking tool for food businesses. But everything else in the book has really benefited us in terms of getting organized, communicating, and being able to grow and reach our goals. And I'll say that I read this book along with our now VP of operations when we were just a team of two. And it was helpful then, and it continues to be helpful as our team and our business grows. So I can't recommend this book enough. But back to how we create an accountability chart. So the chart is meant to help us answer a really big question, and that is, what is the right structure to move your organization forward in the next 6 to 12 months? So at the Good Food CFO, we have a vision and goal setting course where we talk about how to get clear on the vision of your business and then how to set goals and then identify the strategies and the tactics that you can implement in order to reach those goals and move closer and closer to achieving the vision of your business. And part of the process is identifying what you need to successfully implement your plan in terms of money and people and partners. And creating an accountability chart supports that work and informs how your team should be structured to make progress possible, number one, but then also to make the most progress possible. Now, before embarking on the process of building your accountability chart, which is really quite brief, Wickman asks us to do three things. Number one is to look forward. Do not look back and do not get caught up in the present because it will distort your judgment. Number two is to detach yourself from the existing version of the business. Detach yourself from your current role and your ego, your current team, and dare I add, to detach yourself from what social media and other experts tell you that your role and your company structure should be. Your business is unique. And number three, Wickman tells us we must elevate ourselves above the business and look down on it to make decisions for that long-term greater good of the company. This will help you get clear on the structure of your business and its operations. And then you'll be able to create roles and responsibilities that are clear and that can help your company progress towards its goals. I like to break this process down into 3 steps. And the first step is getting clear on the functions of your business. Now, Wickman says that there's essentially 3 major functions that every single business has, whether you are a startup or you are the largest company in the world. And so I recommend that you start there, right? Start with these 3 core functions. The first, in no particular order, is sales and marketing. This is the function that generates business, right? The second function is operations. For a food business, this is going to be where the product is manufactured or the service is provided. Number 3 is finance and administration. This is where money gets managed, right? We're managing the inflow and the outflow of money. And we're also responsible here for the infrastructure of the business, the IT, the human resources, etc. As I said, all 3 of these exist in every business. And Wickman goes on to say that all 3 must be strong. And I agree with this wholeheartedly. There are some founders and some consultants who may debate whether sales and marketing is the most important function. And if you are thinking that right now, I suggest that you take a listen to one of our earliest episodes with Ali Ball and Katie Melezova, where we talk about the 3 pillars of a successful food business. And I'll also share that the reality for many of the founders that we've worked with through Sarah Delavan Consulting and the Good Food CFO is that they have a solid marketing and sales function, a strong operational function, and a weak financial function. And what that means is that they bring in a lot of customers, and they can produce and deliver their products well, but money is coming in and going right back out due to a lack of financial controls. I talk quite a bit about, you know, the ability to make $1 million doesn't mean that you're going to be profitable. We've seen many businesses that make $1 million in revenue and have $1 million or more than $1 million in expenses. So many companies fall into this type of situation because there's no financial plan or budget. There's no monitoring of spending, and there's no evaluation of the profitability of each of your individual customers. So every founder that I know in the good food space works hard, and so do their teams. And all of you deserve to be compensated for your creations and your work. So it only benefits you to have 3 core functions that are working optimally, right? And equally well within your business. And creating the accountability chart and working through this process will help you to get there. As you grow, these 3 major functions might split into more functions. So, for example, your sales and marketing function might split into one distinct sales function and one distinct marketing function. Your operations might become, product production, shipping and receiving, customer service, right? And then finance and administration could be finance, IT, and human resources, right? Each independent functions. If you're watching this on YouTube or inside the Good Food CFO community, because our podcast is video based as well, you'll see we've created 3 boxes and we've positioned them in a line from left to right, each one with the main function listed at the top. The next step is to list the roles that make up each of these core functions. And Wickman recommends listing no more than 5 major roles each. So if you find that as you're listing out the roles within, say, the sales and marketing function, and you have more than 5, make a second box that's sales and marketing. Okay. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need a person for every box. And we'll dive into how to think about roles and responsibilities in step 3. So for now, let's just walk through an example of what the roles might be within each of these functions. So in sales and marketing, we may have sales, we may have marketing, and we may have pre-sale, customer service, and communication, right? Maybe 3 primary functions. In the operations function, we may have product production, we may have customer order processing, customer service post-sales, inventory management, and facility maintenance. And in finance and administration, we definitely have accounts receivable and payable. We definitely have finances and budgeting. Maybe on yours, it says, bookkeeping or accounting. You want to have human resources. We have payroll. And then we also included IT in our example. Each of these roles, again, might be done by one person, might be done by multiple people, and we'll dig into that a little bit more in step 3. But before we move on, I want to talk about 2 additional functions that might exist in your business. So the first is called the integrator. And integrators are the person on your team that has that unique ability to run the organization. They love to manage the day-to-day and handle issues as they arise, right? They love and are responsible for integrating the 3 major functions of the business. They're essentially the glue that holds the company together. And this function is positioned above the 3 primary functions in the accountability chart. And the person in this role is typically called the CEO. Integrators are typically good at leading, they're good at managing, and they're good at holding people accountable. They love running the day-to-day aspects of the business and are often accountable for whether the business is profitable or not. And they guide the overall business plan execution for the organization. The second function I want to talk about here that might be a part of your organization is the visionary. The visionary is another powerful function in the organization, and it's located above the integrator on the accountability chart. In a small to mid-sized company, the visionary is typically the owner, the co-owner, or the founder. And in a lot of successful partnerships, we see that one partner is the visionary and the other is the integrator. The visionary is the ideas person. They are great solvers of big, ugly problems, and they are fantastic at relationships with important customers, vendors, suppliers, bankers, you name it. Company culture is often very important to them because they typically operate from a more emotional space and have a better like barometer and ability to recognize how people are feeling. The interesting thing is that every business needs an integrator. And so, depending on the size of your business, you'll need an integrator at some point. But according to Wickman, only about 50% of businesses have a visionary role or a visionary function, I should say. Not every founder wants to be or is designed to be the CEO and integrator in their business. And not every founder is a visionary. So think about this for a little bit and look at your accountability chart and determine if your company would benefit from having an integrator and or a visionary in the business to move your business forward in the next 6 to 12 months. If the answer is yes, add those functions to your accountability chart. Finally, the last step is to determine who is doing each role and who is the accountable person for each function. So I'm going to walk us through another example here, a different one. We're going to say that we have a pasta company and the operations function here is separated into two distinct functions. One is pasta production and the other is shipping and receiving. So under the pasta production function, or within it, I could say, we've got the roles of making the pasta, packing the pasta, palleting the pasta, and machine and facility maintenance. And within the shipping and receiving function, we've got receiving and processing orders, shipping the orders, inventory management, and warehouse maintenance. So going back to pasta production, we might have multiple team members working within this function. And I'm going to say that we've got 4 in total: 2 make the pasta and maintain the pasta machines, and 2 are responsible for packing the pasta into their unit packages, into their case boxes, and finally onto the pallets. So in this case, we would just put a little number 4 in maybe like the upper corner of that pasta production function to indicate 4 team members there. And now we also need to identify the person who's accountable ultimately for the pasta production function. Now, it could be one of those 4 people that we just talked about, or it could be someone else. And in this example, I'm going to say that it's the operations manager and their name is Sam. So I'm going to write Sam's name at the top of the function, just above the list of roles. Now we'll look at the shipping and receiving function. And there's just one person here that's responsible for all of these roles, and that's Sam. Sam is receiving the orders, processing the orders, managing inventory, and making sure that the warehouse is neat and tidy and safe. So they're doing each of the roles, and they're ultimately responsible and accountable for that function. So here we can see that the operations manager is really accountable for everything that's happening within operations. And I wanted to give this example so that you could see that there could be one or more person, right, working in a role, and that there is also the possibility that someone could be responsible and accountable for more than one function. And this leads me to 3 very important things that I want you to take with you as you build out your accountability chart. So one is this very important idea that you can have one person accountable for more than one function, but you cannot have 2 people available for one single function. Two people accountable for the same thing means no one is truly accountable. And this is really a recipe for miscommunication and confusion and lack of progress. Number two, everyone on your team must get it, want it, and have the capacity to do it. When we say it, I mean their role. And Wickman defines these things within the book, and I'm going to give you a little bit of insight into what he's thinking now. So when he says get it, he means that they understand their role within the organization, meaning how important it is to the overall success of the business. They understand the culture, they understand the systems and the pace of work and how all of the jobs come together. When we say they must want it, it means that they genuinely like their job. And the capacity to do it means that they have the time and the mental, emotional, and physical capacity to do the job well. As founders, and I think I speak for all of us, we want people to enjoy their work. And as humans, I think we all want to enjoy and take pride in what we do to earn a living. If you have someone on your team that can't answer yes, or that you don't think is a yes for all of these things, they may not be in the right role. There might be a role within the organization that they're better suited for, or more comfortable doing, or simply enjoy more. We thrive in positions where we get it, want it, and have the capacity to do it. And as a result, when we've got people in positions where they have all of these things, the company progresses forward. Number three is that everyone has a limit, including you. Often when we start a business, we handle all of the functions. And as the company grows, we as the founder have to recognize when we're at or over capacity. And then we need to reduce the number of roles that we are responsible and accountable for. Now, this can be done by creating efficiencies, delegating roles and accountability, right? Or both. And as we make these decisions, we want to ensure that we are moving ourselves and our team members closer and closer to the area of the business that aligns with our greatest skill and our greatest passions inside the organization. In putting your accountability chart together, you're going to be able to see who is at capacity or exceeding the limit of what they can do well. And when you recognize that, you need to take the steps forward with them in many cases to create efficiencies or to delegate and elevate people so that no one is overwhelmed, no one is over capacity. Everyone can do their job well, and the company is able to move toward its goals. Remember that the goal of the accountability chart is to answer the big question: what is the right structure to move your organization forward in the next 6 to 12 months? And as your chart comes together, I want to share a few things to examine. The first is, are the functions that you outlined clearly defined within your business today? What changes would need to be made to match the accountability chart? And what could the benefit of making those changes be? Number two, do each of the functions in your business have a clearly identified accountability person? If not, what changes, conversations, training need to happen to create clear accountability? When this is done, it will in turn create clear communication. Number three, are the members of your team in the right roles? Do they get it? Do they want it? And do they have the capacity to do it? Number four, does everyone have enough time to do their job well? Now, if someone is in a role, if we're thinking about production as an example, where they aren't physically able to do the job within the time frame that you need them to, you need to think about how you can assist them, what tools they might need to be able to get the job done in the way that it needs to be done, or you need to identify that that's not the right role for them. Outside of production, where you might have team members who are responsible for multiple roles, right? And accountable for one or more functions, it's really important to take a really hard look and an honest look at if they have enough time to do their job, meaning all of their roles, well. And lastly, are there any members who you have identified as not being a right fit for the team? A really common mistake is creating a role around a specific person or modifying a role to accommodate someone's preferences because you don't want to lose them. And as a result of that, you or others on the team take on more responsibility. The accountability chart really shows us what the optimal structure of our organization is to thrive. And after completing this process, there may be some difficult conversations in your future. If you need help with that, definitely reference the book Traction and perhaps read Difficult Conversations or tap into some of Brené Brown's work. No one likes difficult conversations, but they are absolutely worth having and often necessary for moving your business forward. This is such important work for getting your business operating on all cylinders and ensuring that you have the ability to reach your business and your financial goals. So, as a reminder, you can watch the video version of this podcast inside the Good Food CFO community and on YouTube to see the accountability chart examples that I used in this episode. We've got links to both in the show notes. And if you want a little extra support, you want some feedback or maybe some encouragement as you complete this process for your business, you can join me for a live Q&A session where we'll dive deeper into this topic. I'll share how our accountability chart looks and how we use it. And you can ask any questions you have about building your own accountability chart. This live will be open to all Good Food CFO Plus members. So if you're not yet a member, you can join by visiting thegoodfoodcfo.com/join. Membership includes access to members only podcast episodes, bonus content, other live Q&As, and live podcast recordings. The content library there is growing every week, and you have the option of joining for a monthly or annual membership. Thank you for spending time with me here today. If you enjoyed this episode or found it helpful or inspiring in any way, please share it with your founder friends on social and rate and review the podcast wherever you listen. It is the #1 way to help more good food founders find the show. I'll be back with a brand new episode in 2 weeks.